I just started this book by a chap called Arthur Zajonc, I don't know how it's pronounced, his surname. He wrote this great book about light a few years back, and I've just bought his new one, which is about meditation. I don't know what it's going to be like yet, but see, it's in the introduction it has that quite famous story about the Buddha, where the Buddha's walking along this road after sitting under a tree for a long period of time, and he's met by somebody on the road, and the person who meets him is kind of stunned by his appearance and says to the Buddha, are you some kind of a god or a divine being? And the Buddha says, no, I'm not that. So he says, oh, are you a man then? He said, and the Buddha says, no, I'm not a man either. He says, well, what are you then? He says, I'm awake. And I think I'm right in saying that that's how the Buddha got his name, because I think Buddha means the awakened one, or something like that. So I'm just trying to think what that really means, what that must have been like, what the experience of that must have been like. And the only kind of reference I've got for that is a non-spiritual, non-religious reference. So I've certainly never seen anybody who seems to be glowing and seems to be infused with any kind of spiritual essence, partly because I don't believe in the concept of spiritual essence, I suppose. But the nearest reference I've got to it is people who try too hard in the theatre. People in musical theatre, for example, particularly children in musical theatre, I'm sorry to say, where they've been to some kind of stage school and they've been told to smile and they've been told to present themselves and they've been told to have personality. So their eyes are open fantastically wide and their mouths are open with all these terrifyingly white teeth, and there's something very frantic about their expression, and that expression seems to distribute itself across their whole body, so the whole body is kind of, I'm awake. I don't know. I don't know what it is really. I'm guessing that the Buddha didn't come across like like a 12-year-old reject from stage school. I'm assuming that wasn't the case, but that's the nearest reference point that I've got. And I guess why that's a reference point is to do with presence and awakeness and charisma. That when we see, I guess it's a pretty personal thing, but certainly when I see somebody and they have that kind of wide awake intensity to them, I don't find it spiritual at all. I find it quite intimidating in many ways, or slightly off-putting. So I'm assuming that the Buddha was talking about something else. I think it is interesting that he used the word awake, though, because in my mind he could have equally said, I'm absolutely here, or I am living in the moment, or something that sounds quasi-philosophical. By which I would have meant, all right, okay, what that signifies there, what this awakeness exactly here, precisely now signifies there, is that there's something about this experience which is completely engaged with the moment. He's living deliberately in that moment, if I can kind of misquote Thoreau, and feeling the earth under his feet and seeing the world around him. And a complete kind of unity of concept and percept, and a complete kind of unity of interoceptive perceptions and exteroceptive perceptions, and a complete feeling of being exactly located in the position, in the place that he is, in as many ways as that might mean. And that kind of awakeness being about being awake to who you are, where you are, when you are, and it being exactly here and precisely now. And where that, I guess, might distinguish itself from the kind of junior showtime, smiling, 12-year-old children coming out of stage school thing, is there's something pretty directionless about that, I think. It's with a kind of pseudo-presence, that pseudo endless smiling that you get in musical theatre, for example. It's highly directed. You feel like pinned down by it sometimes because there's a beam of presence hitting you. Whereas I think the kind of awakeness that the Buddha was referring to, if there's any correlation between his experiences at all, is much more to do with a kind of directionless sense of being here now, kind of an irradiation of the space, or an occupation of the space by that presence, rather than it being a kind of laser beam shooting out of your eyes, and entirely defining that presence in terms of whether you look nice or not.